Podcast, your home for all things Astros. With your hosts, sports writer Jeff Balke and Astros broadcaster and former third baseman Jeff Blum. Now, here's Balke and Blummer.
What is up, Astros fans? Welcome to episode 73 of the Believe in Astros podcast on the Believe Podcasting Network. I'm Jeff Balke alongside my partner, Jeff Blum, that working man, a friendly voice, and a companion unobtrusive in the land of Rush, where the Astros are playing the Blue Jays. I'm going to be, listen, just beware. There will be a number of Rush lyrics and references snuck into this particular podcast, after which I might play this. Which, yes, is Geddy Lee. so just a little warning. Blummer, how are you doing this morning? Any Geddy Lee sightings? He does have season tickets, apparently.
No, that's what I was just going to mention, too. You know, Rush being the phenomenal band they are and being from Toronto, which makes them greater than Justin Bieber, thank God.
Yes.
I have not seen them at a game, but Geddy Lee is a prominent face around Rogers Center in the past. I don't know where he's at or what he's doing, touring or whatever it is, but one of the fun things is always seeing him behind home plate, but he hasn't been there in this series.
Yeah, I keep looking for him. I know he has a massive collection of baseballs. He
donated it to somebody, didn't he?
I think he donated some of it, but not all of it. But Geddy's a kind of a quirky collector. He collects, he'll go on a jag of collecting baseballs, and then it's wine and obviously bases and whatever. So he's kind of a quirky collector. But he's got an incredible collection of baseball stuff. Apparently, while you're up there, Blum, you might try a little Rush Golden Ale. Just saying, now that they're selling beer. I need to find that.
I've been known to have a beer.
And I'm just going to not so subtly sneak in my Rush mustard that I do have here, which they do sell. And by the way, is really, really good.
Could have used that on the Looney Dogs they were handing out yesterday.
Tell me about those.
Well, a loony is $1 because $1 is in a coin form out here in Canada.
It's called a loony?
It's called a loony because it's got a picture of the loon on it. So they call it a loony. Now they have a smaller, heavier coin for $2, and it's called a toonie. Yeah, for those wondering. So I having played
$3 up here, is a loony toonie.
Yeah, loony toonie. So I've gotten change back from a week in Canada, and basically pulled out about $56 because it's all loonies and toonies. Yeah, that's the fun part.
Loonies and toonies. Honestly, that's way better than dollars and cents. Nickel, come on. Looney and toonie is
those are coins that count.
That's pretty spectacular. I'm down with that. Wow. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. I had no idea. Dropping some Canada knowledge on me. I am going to be in Toronto next spring. My wife and I are going on a Canadian cruise. At least from Toronto goes through Niagara Falls and through the Great Lakes, all the way around to Milwaukee at the end.
If that cruise is in the shape of a barrel, be careful.
I will make sure I'll bring a life jacket. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, and of course, YouTube. Be sure to use that magic at your fingers. That's right. That's another reference. To like and subscribe and keep up with us, and give us a follow on Twitter and now on Instagram as well. Believe in Astros. You can find me at Jeff Balke, Blummer at Blummer 27, pretty much everywhere on social media. Also subscribe to the YouTube channel, of course. Thanks for giving us 5 stars and reviews on Apple. Remember that if you choose not to do that, you still have made a choice. Obviously, send us your comments, questions. We love seeing all the comments. And Blummer, here's a weird one. Are aliens real now? I don't know if I've read this report from this guy who's like a whistleblower for the government who says that the government has crashed alien spacecraft in its possession. Really? It's been widely reported the last couple days. My buddy Frank, who's a big space guy, turned me on to this, and it seems legit.
Wow.
I know.
Hey, in this day and age, bring it on. There's so much going on. Just bring it.
Just bring it.
They're like, to hell with that place. I ain't coming.
No, they're taking a look at it and they're like, listen, man, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't. All right. So let's start out with something that's really vexing me, and I'm sure vexing you as well. I call it my 1001001 SOS, which thank you for reference. And that is, what is the deal with the Astros after double-digit wins? I mean, they crushed the Blue Jays on Monday, a barrage of home runs, then nothing on Tuesday except for that Doobie homer. They haven't won a game yet this year after scoring 10 runs or more. They're 5-11 since 2022. Thank you to Michael Schwab for that stat. Obviously, pitching yesterday had something to do. I mean, Kevin Gossman's the real deal. Yeah. But what is this deal with this? They score a bunch of runs and then they go in the cooler, quote unquote.
Well, it's easy when you have Kevin Gausman out there. I mean, that dude was wipeout, and they desperately needed him too. I mean, that's the beauty of having a guy like a Framber in your rotation. Yeah. And it's Hunter Brown pitched his ass off. I don't know what else you want from him. I mean, other than giving up a couple of home runs, which he rarely does. Right. But I think the Astros may have out-hit the Toronto Blue Jays and still lost the game because the hits that the Blue Jays were getting were home runs. But at the same time, I'm with you in the sense that it's kind of frightening this year as an Astros fan to see double digits put on the board, because recent history says that they are not going to score anything after that, because this is starting off very similar to a Milwaukee Brewers series where you scored 12 runs in the first game and got shut out the next two. So maybe we look on the bright side and say Doobie hit a home run. That was kind of cool.
Dude,
and hope
that
for
was
the best
pretty cool
today.
That was super cool. It was like the second pitch or third pitch in the game, and he just like doinks one the opposite way. I was watching that right when it came on, and was sitting there watching. I was like, okay, Doobie's up. Maybe he'll get on base. And he hit it. And I go, is that out? Like, I immediately looked at him and was, is that out? Like,
did he just do what I think he did?
I was like, did he just hit the ball? You don't expect, I mean, I'd say 99.9% of Major League Baseball players can have, home run power, even if it's like one a year or something. But Doobie's not a guy you're expecting to go crush on you yet.
He hammered a split figure out, and I was kind of like, "Ooh, maybe that's a sign of things to come." But I think all it did was piss off Kevin Gausman, and he went out there and shoved.
That was brutal, man. Like you said, Hunter Brown's really good, and I want to get to that because I want to put the pitching staff in the limelight. So pitching has been remarkable despite the injuries. I mean, it's and the loss of. I mean, I was writing a story about this. The Astros have two guys that were in their starting rotation to start last year, because it was just Christian Javier, who's like the number 5, by the way. Jake Odorizzi's in Dallas and now out for the season. Justin Verlander is obviously with the Mets. Lance McCullers is on the injured list, and Urquidy is on the injured list. It's really just those two guys. Now, Hunter Brown obviously came up and pitched really, really well. But the bottom of the rotation right now is Brandon Bielak, JP France, and Ronel Blanco. Yet, they still lead baseball in ERA, and they're second in strikeouts. I mean, how long can this hold up, given the fact that they're really, I don't want to say pushing their chances, but like it feels like they're sort of holding on for dear life here.
Well, they're holding on in the sense that there's nothing behind those guys. You've got Sean Dubin on the injured list. You've got Forrest Whitley injured list. And, so once you get past the current rotation that you do have, maybe you're kind of hoping that Ronel Blanco stays healthy, because he's that safety valve in the sense that we're in a 6-man rotation right now, which I think is kind of brilliant by Josh Miller and Dusty Baker, Dana Brown to even consider it, because that's how you protect your pitching staff, is giving them that extra day off, because we saw Dusty push Brandon Bielak to 106 pitches. Right. You start to see these guys get pushed a little bit. And I think the reason you can push them is because you do have that extra day. So that's kind of nice. But in the same sense, the middle finger emoji tweets about our pitching staff from fans outside of Houston is hilarious. Because,
it really is.
Because of what you just said. You've got Lance McCullers working, we don't know what we think he's working his way back, I guess. Jose Urquidy's working his way back. Luis Garcia's gone. Those are three fifths of your 5-man rotation from last year. And then you've got, like you said, JP France is putting up very comparable Luis Garcia type numbers, if not better. And then you've got Brandon Bielak actually putting up better numbers than Jose Urquidy had. So the question probably comes down to is when Jose Urquidy's healthy, does he take Ronel Blanco's spot? Whose spot does he take? I'm not sure how this works out, but it's going to be very interesting. But at the same time, Josh Miller, pitching coach, Brent Strom, acolyte, dude, tip of the old cap to what you're doing, because whatever you're doing is right. This program that they're running here in Houston is phenomenal, and these guys are pitching. And there's something that doesn't get talked about for me, and this is selfishly me being a defender in my life. The defense for the Houston Astros is arguably the best in the league. Jeremy Pena is playing, I believe, above a level that he did last year when he won the Gold Glove. Mauricio Dubon's been an absolute spotlight, flash in the leather at second base. And Alex Bregman's just doing Alex Bregman things. So there's a defense helping this pitching staff. I'm really glad you brought that up, because they've got it scattered across the outfield as well. I mean, both Jake Myers and Chas McCormick have been excellent in the outfield. Jake Myers in particular, who we're going to talk about him in a minute. And of course, even though Kyle Tucker has had a bit of a down year defensively, he's still robbing guys of home runs and that sort of thing. And I really appreciate your comments about the trying to keep these guys from being pushed too much. I mean, Hunter Brown has never pitched more than 130 innings in a year. He's on pace for more than 170, and that doesn't count the postseason, which they're hoping to go deep in. So you really do have to think about protecting some of these guys who aren't used to these huge numbers when it comes to pitching. Huge amounts of innings. It's a really good point. By the way, JP France is probably better than Luis Garcia right now, just with fewer strikeouts. I mean, in terms of keeping the ball in play, throwing around the strike zone, getting outs, he's doing probably a better job than Garcia did. It's just he doesn't have the strikeout numbers that Garcia does. He doesn't have those wipeout pitches that can, they can put guys away. But really, just very impressive. And I love the people around baseball who are like, what the hell, man? It's like, how are they? And honestly, it's how the Astros are hanging on, because, well, I want to talk about the Rangers in a minute, because the Rangers are just unstoppable at the moment offensively. So here's a question, though. Sorry, this actually made me chuckle. So we know that changes aren't permanent, but changes. So it's inevitable. Is it inevitable at this point that Astros have to make a roster move at some point? I mean, the 40-man roster, as you alluded to, I mean, the best guy that is beneath the 40-man roster in the minor leagues right now is this Arrignetti kid at Double-A Corpus, and he's not ready to come up yet. He's good, but he ain't ready. Yeah,
he's good. He's really good. He was terrible at the very beginning of the season. Then suddenly he's got a .67 ERA, and he struck out like 12 in a game. But that guy's not ready. So it just never mind the getting more talent. But doesn't it feel almost like it's inevitable that they need to bring in an arm just because they just don't have anything left? If somebody else gets injured, I don't know what the hell they're going to do. They're going to have to bring you in, Blummer, on a little 10-day. To start, let's see. What do you think your fastball would clock at right about now?
Oh man, 72.
That's still 4-seamer 72.
Yeah, I've got a great spin rate.
Exactly. I feel like even Dana Brown alluded to the fact the other day, saying that the Astros probably are going to have to look for an arm.
He also said they might have to look for a bat.
Oh.
Yeah.
What do they get?
So just to your point, the idea of getting an arm is to almost pacify your own worries. You know what I mean? If you're an Astro fan or if you're a GM. So you want that depth because it is a lot to ask of young arms who haven't been in this position. Yes. We're going back to 2020, 2021 when Luis Garcia were like, how far can we push Luis? How far can we push Jose Urquidy? I think Hunter Brown is built for the long haul, but at the same time, when do you push him to that point? Or, because this is this is basically a second full season of Major League Baseball, so you got to be careful with him, like you said. But at the same time, I think there is the idea of going out and getting another arm to give you a little more comfort. And I don't know who that is. I keep hearing Shane Bieber's name thrown around out there. Speaking of the Biebers, up here in Toronto.
Right.
But, I don't know. But now you have to figure out what exactly you have to give to get. And I think that's where the Astros might be in a little bit of trouble unless this draft coming up goes extremely well.
Well, and also you have to look and say they do have some quality pieces.
You've got plenty of outfielders.
Yeah, at the major league level. But do you want to part with any of those guys?
I don't want to give up anybody.
I know, right? It's we're so greedy at this point. We're like, I don't want to give up anybody. I know. Now, granted, look, the Astros have been pretty good at pulling up talent or bringing in talent kind of with nothing. Yordan Alvarez, we'll just say now. Oh man, yeah. I mean, they've been pretty good at that, and you have to wonder if maybe they're looking at, say, instead of trying to bring in a big time, like some kind of big time name that's on a major league roster, maybe somebody that's on a 40-man, but it's a AAA. Just to provide them some additional depth, somebody who they can work with. Because you mentioned it, Josh Miller. I mean, these guys have been incredible. Because I think and you guys mentioned this on the broadcast, which is where I first kind of thought about it. They're really good at helping these guys figure out, okay, this is what you're doing well. This is what you're not doing so well. We need to consider this. Like with Ronel Blanco, I heard you guys mention the other day how they're trying to push him a little bit more to throw a little bit more of the changeup, throw a little more, incorporate a little more of his ancillary pitches, not just stick with the heater. Those are the kind of things that, that not only does it give a player confidence, right, because they're getting to use their entire arsenal, but you're giving the guy a chance to succeed with pitches that he's going to need later. It's been really impressive, just very, very impressive, their pitching program.
Yeah, I think the communication's off the charts. I think the knowledge is off the charts, and they're able to, convince these guys that this is going to work. But when you have a track record of a Brent Strom, Josh Miller, and success, you're going to have a tendency to listen a little bit better and a little more often. And I think it's also nice that you're kind of you're on a pitching staff, I would imagine. Because this happens with hitters where you kind of share information. You look at each other's deliveries or swings and you say, have you tried this? I did this. It worked for me. Think about it. And I think that's where this pitching this pitching staff is where they can share information and somebody can say, this is how I hold my changeup. Try it. See what happens. Move your wrist into this position and see if that works a little bit better. So Ronel Blanco is one of those guys that, as a reliever, one time through the order, 2 pitches, fine, go for it. Blow it out, 95, 96, turbo slider, go get them. But to go through a lineup 2, possibly 3 times like the Astros expect their pitchers to do, you're going to have to develop some secondary pitches off of your slider to go out there and compete, just to plant that seed in the hitter's head that I can't just sit 50-50 on the fastball slider.
Yeah, I know you weren't a pitcher, obviously, but it feels to me like the tweaks that they do with pitching, even more so than hitting, feels like how a person tweaks their golf swing. Like there's tiny little incremental changes that sometimes have to be made.
I think that they call them data points, I guess, but I mean, there's the video. The Rapsodo machines that they're using and all of the video that they do and the data they're able to pick up, I think really benefits pitchers more than hitters because it's more adaptable for pitchers to be able to say, okay, I need to pronate. I need to get to this position with my wrist or my arm angle. I need to raise my elbow. I think that's a little more beneficial and adaptable for pitchers to go out and do instead of saying, okay, in the middle of my swing, I need to be a 1/4 inch up in the, with my hand position. That's really kind of hard to do when you're swinging as hard as you possibly can. But I think pitchers benefit a little bit from being able to manipulate their delivery, minusculely to be able to make those adjustments and go out there, create more extension, to be able to figure out how to get spin or have both your fingers coming off the baseball at the same time. Stuff like that I think really benefits him a little bit better. And the Astros do a good job of implementing that.
It's really been impressive to watch. I've paid a little closer attention this year probably than in years past, mainly because the pitching staff has been, kind of such a mess with all the injuries and everything. And I say mess only in the sense of injuries, because clearly not a mess in terms of success. And the bullpen, of course, continues to be just lights out great. Although Stanek had kind of a rough outing, but and Montero gave up another homer, which is not good. But I do really think that, you look at it now and you think maybe the Astros can survive. I mean, you do need 3 quality pitchers in the postseason, right? That's the deal. That's really need 3.
That's an excellent point.
So if they can just continue to succeed, I mean, just get to the point where they can continue to win games, try to catch up with a very hot Rangers team, get into the postseason with those 3 really good pitchers. Because their top 3 pitchers are as good as the top 3 pitchers on just about any staff at the moment. And so, maybe that's how they do it. It's just we haven't seen something like this in a while, so it feels a little foreign.
No, it does. And I think, the more I talk to people around the game, and this from watching games over the years and watching what the Rangers are doing, is you just get a ticket to the dance. And I think this is kind of the Astros team that they're not giving up on the West, because I still think they have a chance to win it, because I just can't imagine the Texas Rangers swinging the bats as well as they are for as long as they have been. It's amazing to me what they've been able to do. So credit to them for being able to be such a prolific offense to go out there and protect some of the issues they have in their rotation and in their bullpen, because I think their bullpen's a little weak. If they have to close out some tight games, I don't think that they have enough to do it, but it's yet to be seen, because they haven't had to expose that, because they're scoring so many damn runs.
That's right.
To your point, get to that condensed series in the postseason, and you're going Fromber, Javier, Hunter Brown. I kind of like our chances.
Yeah, no, I do too. I think it's just been a fascinating thing to watch, considering all the problems they've had with injuries. All right, so now let's give a little love to a few modern day Warriors. A few unlikely offensive heroes, right? For the Astros this year.
Take your pick.
Right. So I've got 4 of them on my list. So first, Jake Myers, right? We almost had Jake dead and buried at the beginning of this year. You and I both were like, does he even belong up here? And
he looks scared.
He did. Ever since he put in that leg kick, these are some stats, a couple of these from Astros Locker on Twitter. He's hitting 276, 343 on base, 496 slugging, with a 133 WRC plus, a 122 OPS plus, which is crazy. And that's over his last 140 plate appearances. His WAR 1.4 is the only better person on the team is Yordan.
How about that?
I mean,
I'm stealing that for the show tonight.
Is Rake Farm back?
Did you hear me the other day? I told TK, TK, am I going to have to bring back the khakis for this guy?
You might have to, Blummer. I mean, Jake from Rake Farms, and he's hitting it. What's great is he's hitting in really critical positions, and he's hitting all over the field. Obviously, he's been great defensively. Yeah. He's not striking out.
Yeah, I'm going to Tommy Topper you, because going into before last night's game, obviously a rough one against Kevin Gausman, but going into that game, I made a note. In his last 13 games, the batting average, good, 304, but his OPS is 1,037 going into last night's game.
What?
4 home runs and 9 RBIs in 13 games. I mean, that is a 2-week stint of power. And that's in the 7, 8, 9, not even 7. He's in the 8, 9 spot consistently. So he has definitely turned a corner and looks very confident out there, not to mention the jumps he's getting in center field.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing. In center field, he is the best defensive possibility out there, period. I mean, it's not even really close. He is a great defensively. And as fun as Chaz is, and Chaz making big plays and jumping up against the wall, clearly Myers is the better defender. He doesn't have quite the arm, but his ability to get to the ball defensively is just It makes him one of the better center fielders in the AL as
Agreed.
a result of that. So number 2, Yainer Diaz. 8 of his last 14, 5 extra base hits, including a 4-game outing on Monday. Then, of course, yesterday he went into the cooler.
Yeah.
As we've mentioned before, into Dusty's cooler. But Yainer's been on a tear, and honestly, I don't know how much longer you can just keep him on the bench. I think his hitting is becoming such a critical and integral part of the Astros because he doesn't just hit for power, which he does, but he hits for average. The guy really understands the plate. He's got great plate discipline. He doesn't swing in a lot of bad pitches, and he hits the ball all over the field.
He started back-to-back games for the first time this season and proceeded to go 6 for 8.
Unbelievable.
So I kind of like that idea of having him down there, and he provides, some pretty good thump.
Yeah.
So I agree with you in this sense. If he's able to, take this day off, the next day, how many days off he's going to take and still come back and put up some good at bats, I think you definitely have to give him some consideration. Right. And the argument always with Maldonado is going to be, but defense. And Yainer, when he's right and is actually focused behind the plate, can catch and throw just maybe almost as well, if not better than Maldonado, because he's got a little bit more life in his arm. The pitch calling might be the issue, or the controlling the staff and being that team psychologist in the middle of a game might be an issue. And you just don't know how he's going to react down the stretch. And that's one of the things I think Dusty kind of looks at is how is he going to handle a pitching staff down the stretch? Because that's going to be kind of paramount with some of the arms that we have in this rotation. And I think that's where the concern is. So does his offense offset that? To be honest with you, might be how you look at it.
I get that for sure. I do think that, when you look at Yainer's play defensively, it makes sense with a pitching staff that's this fragile too. I mean, it might be a different story if you had 5 guys that were healthy up here. You might say, okay, we'll put Yainer in there 2 or 3 times a week and we'll just split duty because these guys know what they're doing going out there. But when you've got Renel Blanco and JP France and those kind of guys, it might be tough. I can understand. And look, they made it kind of I don't want to call it a conspicuous switch, but they switched from Yainer back to Maldi for Hunter Brown. After I guess Yainer had 3 starts with the last 3 starts with Hunter, he had been his catcher. So maybe I don't know what they're trying to do to switch things up. Who knows? But you're right. There could be a lot in the play. I know that some of our Twitter friends out there, particularly Susie from Bourbon and Baseball, she is beside herself over Yainer Diaz not getting enough playing time. It's almost become comical to watch it on Twitter.
Yeah. Well, and just another note, if you're thinking along with the manager, it's another interesting thing to know that Gray Kessinger has been called up and Salazar's been sent down. Not that Dusty managed like he had 3 catchers, but now it's going to be even more obvious that you don't pinch hit, you don't pinch run because you only have 2 catchers. So when Yainer's not in the lineup, he's not going to play until it's an emergency. So get ready for that.
Yeah, for sure. Next guy up on the list is, my new favorite player on this team, Corey Julks. I just love watching him. I just love watching this guy play. He's so much fun to watch play. He's got a 693 OPS, which is great for a rookie. He has 5 homers, 22 RBIs, and 8 stolen bases. Look, if he gets enough playing time, he could go 15-20.
I agree.
Right?
I completely agree.
He's just so much fun to watch. He has such a good approach at the plate. He's good defensively, particularly playing in left field where you don't have to be great defensively in Minute Maid. I think he's got such great energy out there, and he's been so consistent, which of course is the big issue with rookies. And he's just been really consistent. He doesn't strike out a bunch. Just love watching the guy play. So much fun.
Well, his at bats probably are very reminiscent of his career. I mean, this dude's been a grinder. He's had to adjust. He's had to, take, a piece of humble pie because this game will break you down. And if you don't fight back, you're not going to make it. So I give him credit in that sense that he's made the adjustments to get to the big leagues. But you can see that energy that you're talking about is that desire. The at bats he has is because he's learned so much and he wants it so bad. So that's what I love about Corey Julks is that he's as well as he's doing and as much as he appreciates it, he knows he has to continue to work to maintain that level he's on right now. And that's what I mean about grinding it through some of these at bats, because he will have a bad at bat. He'll show up the next at bat, and the at bat will be better. So he's making adjustments in game, in at bat. He's a grinder. You can't beat him on the inside because he'll turn on you and pop you out of the ballpark. He does play a very competent left field, if not a very good left field. His arm isn't all that great, but there's ways to make up for that by having your shortstop go out there and get the ball out of your hand before you have to expose that. But at the same time, if it's a fly ball and he's in the vicinity, he's going to catch the ball, and that's all you're asking from this guy. Right.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that about the grinding, because as you once said,
this game will try and kill you.
I mean, because I'm telling you, the thing about him that's remarkable is he really does have some quality at bats. Like he'll get up there 8, 9, 10 pitches with a guy, looking for his pitch and just spoiling good pitches. That's something he's a rookie. We know he's 27, so he's been around for a while. That shows. It shows that he has really developed some good plate discipline. Love watching that guy. And my fourth guy, how can you not talk about Mauricio Dubon? Even with
Put him on the All-Star ballot,
right? Even with Altuve coming back, he's hitting .294 with a .323 on base, .713 OPS. Just crazy. He's been so incredibly consistent. You think, oh, well, here's Altuve. He's going to go back on the bench. He's probably going to struggle. No, not really. He's just going to come out. And the thing that I love about his approach at the plate is he just takes whatever the hell you throw. He's not trying. You made the comparison. I made the comparison to Tony Kemp before, but obviously better than Tony Kemp. But I think he really does have that. He's going to take whatever is up there, whatever's given him. He's not going to try to swing at stuff that he can't hit. He's not going to try to, like he's mentioned himself, he's not trying to go out there and hit home runs, although he did the other day. He's just going to go out there and try to put, the bat on the ball and get something in play. Just cannot be more impressed with the guy.
No, but I think I think that home run he hit last night is a perfect example of his approach. He's thinking, take the fastball, everything, go the other way, get on top of the baseball. Jordan mentioned to him earlier in the year, try and hit the top half of the baseball. He's done that and he's hit it hard going the other way. That's why the average is at 290 plus. And then when you get the off speed and you get the barrel out there and you let it fly, you're going to run into one or two every once in a while. And that's exactly what happened last night on that split that he hit out off of Osman, is that he was probably thinking, I'm going to take a fastball, go the other way. Oh, hey, this is a mistake I can get to. I'm going to throw the barrel at it. And he got fortunate. So that's a credit to a good swing, good approach, and being ready to hit. And that's what Mauricio Dubon has done the entire season, is be ready to hit. And it's paid off. And if you told me at the beginning of the season you're going to get a 700 plus OPS out of this guy, I wouldn't have laughed, but I would have been like, man, that's going to be tough to do. And here he is with the 700 plus OPS. So I think that he has gone above and beyond and actually created a little bit of a niche for himself moving forward in his career, which is beautiful to see. Yeah. And at the same time, the dude can play second base.
Yes.
He has got range. He's got a great arm that I had no idea about. I know he played shortstop, but he's turned some of these double plays, and they've been turned because he's actually gotten his arm into it.
No, you're 100% right. They missed one because he hesitated. He had
to go back. He had to sit back on a hop. That wasn't his fault.
Exactly. Yeah. But he's so good at second base. It's kind of remarkable. I had no idea he could throw that hard. I watched him in, during pregame warmups a couple of weeks ago when I was there at Minute Maid, and watching him field grounders and then throw to first, he looks like a natural. It's a very natural position for him, both that and short. He just looks very comfortable out there, and they don't lose anything defensively with Altuve being out.
Not at all.
Which is really incredible. And you mentioned him and Jordan. Their relationship is absolutely spectacular. When Jordan hit that bomb, my goodness! And he came in and gave him the little spin, because Dubon's always giving that look like, "Are you kidding me? Another bomb?" Jordan, what in God's name can he? I mean, we've run out of words for this guy, right? We've honestly. That hit into that deck. I loved how shocked people up there were. The video that guy took when they were all standing there, nobody thought that ball was coming up there. And they're like, hey, they all jumped around, and then all the ball was on the ground, and somebody just kind of looked down and they just kind of picked it up. Like, holy shit.
But people are like, why the freak is there a baseball up here? They're like, man, I'm trying to have a beer, good time, talk to some friends, and there's baseballs rattling around. You probably thought Kevin Kiermaier threw it up there from in between innings,
right?
But no, some dude hit it. And then the way it panned up and showed like the view of the field, and you realize how far away that actually was. It was awesome.
It's like that batter's eye on top of the batter's eye at Minute Maid. I mean, it's just if you've ever if for those of you who've never been out there, sometime go out to the batter's eye and just stand out there and look down at home plate and see how far it is. Yeah. I mean, it's not only is it like 30 feet in the air, but I mean, it is a long ass way from home plate. Right?
It's ridiculous.
It's crazy. So yeah, that when he hit that home run, and honestly, it wasn't even that bad of a pitch.
No, he actually went out there and got it. It was off the plate. He went
out and got it. He was like out there way. What else can the guy do, man? What else can the guy do? All right. So I do want to talk a little bit about the Rangers just briefly. Right now it does feel like in the AL West, the Astros have won it so often. But right now it feels like, that all the Astros can do is just survive. So now that we find out DeGrom is gone, he's got to get Tommy John again.
Unbelievable.
Unreal.
I don't wish that on anybody, dude. That's terrible news.
And then they already lost Jake Odorizzi earlier this year. He's gone for the season. They're like, as you mentioned. Yeah, I know. I didn't make the face, but
that would have helped the Astros maybe.
So then you've got their bullpen, which is not great. I just wonder how long can they sustain this kind of offensive onslaught. You made a great point about not having been in tight games, and when they are, maybe that's going to come back to haunt them. But how long can they do this? I mean, they've got guys playing way above their heads right now, it seems like. And if you're the Astros, what do?
You continue to pitch. Is what you do. I mean, that's the only way you break down a good hitting team is to have better pitching. And that's typically what we've seen in the past, with some of these championships that we've had, in 2019 which was probably the best lineup I've ever seen, let alone for the Houston Astros. And the Washington Nationals figured out how to pitch and suppress that offense and didn't let them overwhelm that World Series like I thought they could have. So there's history with that, saying good pitching beats good hitting, and you just have to see if that comes to fruition when you actually have a chance to play them, because they're within a series of overtaking them in that West as far as being back 3.5 games. So I think that if you can stay within that kind of striking distance, there's still an opportunity to win the American League West. So they haven't really kind of been pushed away. As much as we say we can't catch up to the Rangers are probably looking back at the Astros and going, man, we can't get rid of these guys.
Right.
And trust me, it's in the back of their minds knowing that how good this team is and how well they've played against them in the past. So there is a lot of pressure, more pressure, I think, when you're the leader of the pack as opposed to being the hunter. And that's where the Astros are right now, just kind of hunting them. But I think if they can stay within a series as far as games back, I think that still puts a lot of pressure on the Texas Rangers.
Blummer, it reminds me of when Tiger was in his prime. And the thing they used to say when they would analyze his game is they would say that he would go out there and play, his game, no pressure, and he would wait for the field to come back to him. He would just keep playing. He was just relentlessly good right? Great when he needed to be. But his goal was to be consistently good and allow some regression to the mean, allow the field to sort of come back to where he was and then hit the throttle when he needed to. That's what I hope for the Astros. I sort of hope that what this is like, okay, we're going to keep playing as hard as we can despite injuries, despite all the issues that have surrounded us, despite maybe not being as good offensively as we want to be. And here we are still hanging around, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's probably their formula for success, is just keep being that, like you said, keep being that team where everybody's like, are you kidding me? Right? Mm-hmm. Just have all this time, just like, please, enough with the Astros. Look, if I were another fan of another major league team, I would probably be annoyed with the Astros at this point, as much as I'm annoyed with the Golden State Warriors or any other, like when the Patriots were winning all the time. You know, it does get annoying, right?
Yeah. So if you're the Rangers, you open up the paper, you're like, oh, Luis Garcia went down. Oh, Jose Urquidy went down. Oh, Altuve's got an oblique, whatever. Oh, Michael Brantley's not swinging a bat. Oh, this, oh, that. You're going, man, there's so much hope. Look at this. The Astros are imploding, but they're only 3 games back. What the freak's going on down there?
And in truth, the Astros record is pretty close to where it was last year. And in 2021, it's basically wild. They're pretty similar. I mean, they're not on pace to win 100 games yet, but of course we saw that last year and the year before they sort of turned it on at the end and had like great August and September numbers. So it's you're 100% right in that the pitching is going to be the key to this, and they've really got to just stick with that. So I have one question and one little thing for you before we go. First up, I did mention earlier in the broadcast that apparently someone has said that we have spacecraft that the Pentagon has found. So here's the question, Blummer. If we're not alone in the universe, what would you ask our new alien overlords?
Oh, what would I ask our alien overlords?
Let's assume they're benevolent.
Yeah. Is the Millennium Falcon real? I mean, can we do that? I mean, I know it's not very alien-like, but I'm kind of curious. I would be like, okay, what's the fastest spaceship you got?
Right.
I want to know.
Let's see some warp speed out there.
Yes, please.
I'm 100%
Can I go to hyperspace?
That's a great question. I just want to know, is the multiverse a real thing? Maybe they know.
Yeah, I want to know how big this thing actually is.
Right. Also, do you think they have rush mustard in other universes? Because if they don't,
that might be the peace offering you bring.
bring them a little rush mustard. They're like, oh.
Yeah, you got rush mustard. I'll bring hair product. I'll be able to check this out.
That's the slowly but inconspicuous. Okay, last thing. So yesterday, you're obviously a big golf fan and big golfer. With this huge announcement that the PGA and LIV are joining forces after a year ago, they were like, called them a bunch of traitors, and a bunch of guys like went up. Look, my personal feeling is this: you should be getting into bed with Saudi Arabia. Period. It's bad business. You're getting into bed with people who have a horrible track record of human rights. They basically killed Jamal Khashoggi, a journalist, because he was poking around. It's not good, right? But I get the money. But man, what are they doing? How could you possibly, after a year of basically saying, we don't want to have anything to do with anything about this, be like, oh yeah, by the way, now they're our business partners. What the hell?
Dude, that's exactly my thought. I was like, what the hell's going on here? I'm like, how does this even become a decision? And then you're starting to hear about how secretive these meetings were.
Yes.
Greg Norman might be on his way out. He didn't even know about the merger. I mean, there are so many layers to this that are just mind-boggling. And you're right. The human rights atrocities and the timing of this during June. I mean, it's like, what? Why? What? But if you can separate that, if you can compartmentalize everything, the human rights violations alone, just put that off to the side real quick. Yeah. Jay freaking Monahan,
yes,
the president of the PGA, whatever. I don't know what his title is, but he
chairman,
runs the PGA.
I think. Chairman, yeah.
He is the leader of the PGA. 2-3 years ago, sat in front of everybody at the PGA and said, you know what? Don't do it. keep your nose clean, stick up for the PGA. We're going to back you up. We've got your back. Everything you say, we got your back. We're going to do this together. We need you. Fight for us. We'll give you everything you want. Stay here with us. These guys turned down hundreds of millions of dollars to tote the PGA flag, and Jay Monahan behind their back agreed to this deal and said, you know what? The money's not good for you, but it's good for me. And if that guy still has a job with the PGA, I will be thoroughly shocked. That's the one thing that pisses me off. It's like you put this guy in a leadership position to protect us, lead us, and you just crapped all over the idea that you gave us 2-3 years ago. I'm pissed if I'm a player in that sense.
Oh, I'd be incredibly furious.
Furious. So, and you know what? All of these guys that were given opportunities for staying with the PGA, those are the guys that are going to get shit on and pushed out of the PGA because there's going to be a whole influx of talent coming in. It's amazing to me, but there's a lot going on. But that's the one thing that really kind of pissed me off about the whole thing. But this started with the antitrust court lawsuits that they had going on. So this is basically an agreement to put the antitrust behind them and move on. But man, dude, it's crazy. I can't wait to see how this unfolds, but it's amazing. And I've never heard the term sports washing.
Yeah, it's before. A good term. It's a good term. And look, here's the thing too, setting all that aside, a year ago, he was like, we are here to support the families of, 9/11 survivors.
Yep.
Are you kidding me? Like now you're going to come back and do this?
The PGA is a nonprofit organization that's now just been bought out by the Saudis.
Well, that's the next one. Let's see how the federal government handles the nonprofit status of an organization that is essentially run in the United States by a foreign government that is not considered an ally. I'm going to be super curious to see how that unfolds because, anyway, there's so many layers to that. But good Lord.
Is it weird for me to be a little concerned to know that they bought an American sports company?
Yes, it's not. It's completely normal for you to feel that way. It's completely normal.
That was kind of like when I got done absorbing the whole thing, I'm going, wait a minute, they just bought into an American sports company. Who's next? Well,
imagine if they just go in and buy a professional football team or buy a professional baseball team. And by the way, not an individual, not some guy who happens to be from the Middle East or whatever, which we've seen in all sports, but an organization. Like this is an organization that is a part of the Saudi government. So the whole thing is just a total mess. I can't believe it. It was so infuriating. And it makes me not, and I do like to watch golf, but it makes me not want to watch golf. I'll be honest.
I love golf. And this is,
I know.
Ugh.
Oh my God. Okay, well, I don't want to leave on a terrible note, so we'll set all that aside. Yeah, you're in Toronto for a couple more games.
2 more.
And then, 2 more games, and then you're off to hit YYZ, the airport, right? That's what it's called up there, Airport YYZ. And you're gonna fly by night to Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, what are you looking for in the Guardians series? This is obviously, they're not great. They're sort of a mediocre, middling kind of team. Have you even looked into what's going on there yet? I mean, I haven't looked that far in advance, but it does seem like a series that's winnable for the Astros, and the Astros are good on the road.
The Astros are good on the road, and this is going to sound terrible, but I'm not impressed with the National League or American League Central. So I'm like, if the Minnesota Twins are the class of the American League Central, I look at the Guardians and say, well, the Astros should go in there and play pretty good. Although I must say, I love me some Jose Ramirez.
Oh, yeah.
I love me some Tito Francona. Mm-hmm. So, I'm looking forward to seeing some people and watching some guys play. But at the same time, I'm not overwhelmed.
Right.
Karinchak is, his skit is kind of played out, and I don't know. I've just kind of focused on the Blue Jays for right now. And truth be told, I go series by series when I'm prepping. Yeah, so
I don't blame you.
Monday morning, I'll probably dig into what the Guardians are doing.
Yeah.
But my entire goal is just to continue to call them the Guardians.
I know, right? Just keep that in your head. Just say it. Maybe if you say it like 1,000 times a day,
I'll practice.
Just keep practicing along with. There's so many of those teams now that have changed their names. You're like, like I know what's the one in football when Washington are the Commanders. The Commanders, which is a weird name. I got to be honest with you.
It's kind of long.
I mean, it's just it's the way it sounds. Commander. Just sounds weird. It doesn't. It sounds strange. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for joining. We will be back next week with a fresh pod brought to you by Bet Online and Rush Golden Ale Mustard. A girl can dream. Again, huge thanks to all our listeners and viewers across the world, including, I assume, Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson from Rush. If they don't listen to us, believe me, I'm going to pummel them on social media, and I'm hoping that they will at least be like, hey, these guys are they're really working. Like if they can't see how much effort that I put into this today,
let's go.
Then come on. Thanks so much, everybody, for liking and subscribing. We're deeply thankful for all of that. Keep it coming. Have a great weekend. Off on your way. Maybe hit the open road. That's right. I'm going to keep this right. That was from Red Barchetta, by the way. Maybe even take off to the Great White North. Now, there is one that very few people will know about. That Rush got together and did a song for Bob and Doug McKenzie. Do you remember them? The two guys that did
Hork Off, eh?
Yeah, that's right. They did a song called Take Off to the Great White North. And for that soundtrack.
Watch Strange Brew.
Yeah, exactly.
I highly recommend it. Make sure you got about a 6-pack in you before you turn it on.
See, I knew, Blummer, that you would get it. I knew, if anybody would get it, you would get it. If nobody got you,
don't be a hoser, eh?
Don't be a hoser, eh? If nobody's got you, Blummer's got you. I'll take that from Kyle Tucker. All right, guys, we'll see you next week. As always, go Astros.